In this section, we're going to start actually practicing using Linux. I want us to set up a lab environment that we can use throughout the rest of the lesson to refer to the sections that I'm about to talk about. So, to get the lab environment set up, there's a few choices we have to make. First, we need to pick a distribution to use. As we learned in the History of Linux section, there's a variety of distributions that have gained popularity. First, there's the Red Hat family, which is composed of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Fedora, and CentOS. Red Hat Enterprise is used by many large enterprises, is paid for with support, and is often a very stable distribution choice. Fedora Linux is the free version of Red Hat, often containing more bleeding-edge software, but is not supported. CentOS is a binary-compatible exact replica of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It is not supported, but it has all of the features of Red Hat Enterprise. Next, we move on to the Debian family. Debian, Ubuntu, and Mint Linux. These have different package managers and other slightly different standards of how the distribution is used. They're extremely popular among desktop users and even among enterprises. OpenSUSE is a European-based distribution run by Novell. Next up, there's Arch and Gentoo Linux. These are meant for power users. Arch Linux lets you customize your system to your heart's content. Gentoo Linux builds everything from scratch and it's compiled precisely for your system. To get started, I recommend the use of Ubuntu or Fedora or one of the Red Hat or Debian family Linuxes. For most of this lesson, we're going to be using CentOS as our distribution of choice. We also need to choose a terminal emulator. I'll just put it out there that I'm highly biased in favor of Mac systems for Linux administration. In particular, I like iTerm2 as my favorite Linux terminal emulator. It's highly customizable, it has all the features that I need, it has tab support and multi-window support. You should download it, and you should use it, and you should contribute if you like it. Mac also comes with the Terminal app, built into Mac OS X. It's an okay terminal emulator. I used it when I started using Macs, but I quickly switched to iTerm2 as soon as I found out about it. If you're unfortunate enough to have to use a Windows system, I recommend using PuTTY, which is widely accepted as the most common freely available terminal emulator for Windows. I find it hard to use PuTTY without some of the additional add-ons, such as Kitty and PuTTY Tray, to just make it a little more powerful. Another terminal emulator is called Terminator and has some advanced support, much like iTerm2 does. If you are up for paying for a terminal emulator, SecureCRT is an excellent choice for Windows systems supporting session management and multiple tabs. So, now that we've made some decisions about what we're going to use, we need to download and install some software to set up our lab environment. There are two pieces of software that we're going to rely on. One is VirtualBox, which is free virtual machine software from Oracle. VirtualBox lets us run a virtual Linux instance within our system, so we don't even need a connection to the internet in order to play with Linux. We're also going to be using Vagrant, which is open source software that gives us really nice, clean, simple virtual machine management. Once you start using Vagrant, you'll see the power of spinning up and stopping virtual machines at your heart's content. Find lots of boxes or virtual machine images for Vagrant at vagrantbox.es. You can see in the example command here that starting up or initializing a Vagrant box is as simple as just running a single command, vagrant init, and then you specify a box name and a URL. So let's see an example. We'll start by making a new directory to hold our Vagrant boxes. Make dir vagrant. Now I'll change to that directory with the cd command. To get started with a new virtual machine, it's as simple as initializing a new box. Vagrant init, and I'll just come up with a new box name, CentOS. And then I need to paste in the URL of a Vagrant box. I'll switch to a browser window, and I'll visit www.vagrantbox.es. There's a large variety of boxes and distributions to choose from here. And I'll just pick one of these CentOS boxes. Paste in the URL. Vagrant creates a new file called a Vagrant file. We don't need to go through every line in the Vagrant file, but we can look at some of the contents. All it really does is specify that I want to start a new box called CentOS and where to find the box if it's not already loaded. In order to start, I can just say Vagrant up. If the machine doesn't already exist, Vagrant automatically goes out to the website and begins downloading the box. We'll skip the download here. Once the download is complete, Vagrant will proceed by starting up the virtual machine in VirtualBox. You'll never even need to see a VirtualBox window as it's handled behind the scenes by Vagrant. At this point, since the operating system has finished downloading, I'm just booting up the virtual machine. It will only take a minute. Once the virtual machine is booted, it shares some files so that you have access to your Mac system as well, and it makes the Linux system available for you. Now that Vagrant up has finished running, I can run Vagrant status to show me the status of the box. In my case, I have two Vagrant images running, a CentOS box and an Ubuntu box. If I want to log into one of my new Linux boxes, I can type Vagrant SSH and then the name of the box, which I'll copy and paste. It'll be the CentOS box to start with. You can see that it's logged me into Linux and it greets me with a message. At this point, I'm on a Linux system and I am no longer running on my Mac. I can exit back to my Mac by typing Control-D or exit. To halt my virtual machines, I can say Vagrant halt. This will stop the virtual machines, but will not remove them from the system. It only takes a minute. Feel free to start, stop, destroy, or initialize new boxes as needed. These boxes are all temporary. You can use them for development purposes, for testing new software or features, or for whatever purpose you see fit. In order to list the boxes I've already imported, I can type Vagrant box list. This shows me several boxes. I have a CentOS box, an Ubuntu Precise 64 box, which is a specific release of Ubuntu Linux, and a Raring box, which is also a specific release of Ubuntu. In order to initialize one of these machines I've already imported, I can type Vagrant init and then the name of a box, such as Precise 64. This creates a Vagrant file just as it did in the previous example. I can now type Vagrant up. It will import this box. In other words, it will make a copy of this box and import it into this directory and then boot the virtual machine. It's never been easier to get started with Linux than using VirtualBox and Vagrant.